Another great season to be on your screen again as we bring to you the Profit Point Show. That is the show on OGTV that talks about how to make sure that your finances stay aloof of all the economies that might come across you. We tell you about the development of your businesses and tell you what you should do, especially the tools to use in growing your businesses. Now, the first point on the Profit Point Show is the Business Review segment. And also we'll be having the sectorial segment on the Profit Point Show. And with these we'll be having about 1 hour of the program that talks about finances, trade, how to go into economies prepared and using some tools to prepare yourself. Today on the program is the first edition in 2026, and we'll be telling a lot of business owners how to brand themselves and brand their businesses. Looking forward to how to make sure that 2026 is a better year as it comes to business and business environment. My name is Charity James. I welcome you to the Profit Point Show. Now we'll go for this quick stop. This quick stop will take us to the Business Review segment of the program. This is the Business Review segment of the Profit Point Show, and now we want to talk about a particular tool the business owners, be it the small, medium, or large entity, uses when it comes to ensuring that their business is staying afloat all seasons, all business seasons, and that is what we call branding. And on this program, on this segment, we want to talk about branding. What does it entail? How can you use it to grow your business? And how can you use it to sustain or make it a last legacy for you as a business owner? So we have an analyst in the house with us via Zoom who will be talking to us about branding strategy as regards as using it as a growth engine. So we have Kayode Ayodele in the studio via Zoom with us. Good morning, Kayode.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, we are glad to have you. You are our first guest on the Profit Point Show for 2026. So you're welcome to the program. Okay, now let's talk about branding. When it comes to branding, what does it mean? A lot of people will tell you when you see a logo beautifully designed or some colors, then you know that this is the brand that this business owner is using to portray what they are doing. Does branding stop at that point, or we have another leg to branding? So what does branding really mean?
All right, so if we are talking about branding, I would say, just simply put, I think branding is the reputation that your brand, like, branding is the reputation that what you represent lives in the heart of someone. And I say this always, that aside people even own a business, everybody is a brand. So as a person, your name is your brand. If you have a business, that is a different brand. So that means that as a person, for instance, if you have 3 businesses, you have 4 brands. So you may have 3 businesses as 3 brands, but you have a personal brand. And what I'm saying that is that branding is mostly about reputation, not about what you said, but about what you represent. So even there are people who have businesses, that those businesses do not even represent something as strategic enough that can even make us call that a brand and believe that we're in a business. So branding is majorly about the reputation that comes to mind when we hear your name, when we hear the name of your brand, when we hear whatever it is that you are branding. So majorly, I just want to put that branding is reputation. What is on people's eyes when you are not in the room. For instance, when you talk about, let's say, Indomie, there's something that comes to mind when you hear that. When you hear OGTV, there's something that comes to mind. So what exactly comes to mind when people hear your business, when people hear your name, that's your brand, and that's what brand is literally about.
So are we saying branding is surpasses advertising or marketing, or is just a tool that a business owner must use at a particular time? So let's know the difference between branding, advertisement, and marketing.
All right. So I think branding, for instance, the brand strategy.
Okay.
I say that brand strategy is the thinking. Is like the brain box behind whatever it is that happens. Marketing is the execution,
okay.
And that's where we talk about the hard people that go out, people that do different things just so that their attention will get to people. The execution, how that thing goes out, is the marketing,
okay.
And then advertisement is the amplifier. How whatever it is that is going out is being amplified. So, and that is also done in different ways. That is what maybe we use the news media. Marketing is done in different ways. For instance, if you want to market, you do not necessarily have to come to TV to market. So if you want to amplify your marketing, you have to come to the TV, and that is advertisement. But the brain box behind where this is springing forth from, that is exactly what the brand strategy is. That is what the branding is. Branding is not the after effect. Branding is the thinking, the brain box, the behind the thing. What exactly is powering, what is exciting, what is sponsoring, what we are seeing outside is the branding. That exactly is the brain box. That exactly is the powerhouse, the thinking, the brain behind the things that we see. So when maybe we see someone, for instance, whoever is maybe doing digital marketing, for instance, maybe you want to run an ad that is planning for about maybe 300,000 naira. Before you say you want to run an ad that is planning about 300,000 naira, you must have at least started down to think, who am I targeting? Who is this product? Who am I reaching out to? That exactly is the branding. But doing that thing, running the ad, reaching out to the people is the marketing. And then whatever it is that you are now doing, say, okay, you are coming to the news media, the platform that you are using, that is the advertising. The execution is the marketing, and the amplification is the advertising. But the planning, the thinking about it, the powerhouse is the branding.
Okay, so invariably marketing and advertisement comes under branding, because you must have your strategy put down, and some of the strategies to showcase yourself or brand yourself or make people see you the more is using the marketing tool or the advertising tool. Is that what you're saying? Okay, now let's move to some people who we know that has been in the business for long. They are known for a particular color, they are known by a particular name, or they are known by a particular trademark. And so for so many times, when you want to trade with them or when you want to buy their product or use their services, you go for what you see, and what you see comprises of some colors, some enticement that comes along with their product. So how best can you use all these logos, trademarks, the name, and the colors that come with it to brand yourself? Are they necessary? Why are these things necessary in the usage when it comes to branding? Why must you use some particular colors? Why must you use some particular items or shapes or animals? Some people use animals as their trademark. So why must you be known for a particular trademark or name or color in branding?
All right. So I think that one of the things that people don't understand when they see symbols, when they see colors in branding, is the fact that there is nothing that is, it is a proper brand that went through strategy. There is no element of branding that is unintentional. Every element is intentional and has a meaning. And when we understand first that it has a meaning, we understand that it is not useless. So, for instance, if maybe you want to create a logo, for instance, you would have, there's something called a brand document. And in that brand document, there are things that, the typography, the brand values, the colors, and all of that. Meanwhile, for instance, if you are running, let's say you are running an organization, a corporate organization, one of the typographies that you are most likely going to use is, say, Montserrat. That's the common one. Montserrat and Poppins, that's the common one. And I'm using that example because it's common. So the reason why that is mostly being referred and being prescribed to people who are owning corporate brands is because that font is one of the fonts that is mostly used in the corporate world. So when you see that font, what first comes to mind is the corporate world. So fonts are not just there for decoration. Okay, let me bring it home. For instance, if you see a particular, there are some pastors now that when you see them, some of them wear just white. Or there are some churches that we see them and we know that, okay, this church, this is what they wear. Maybe they just wear white overall. And there are some churches that they just wear what they want. But even in some churches where they wear anything, there are some departments that this is what they wear. This is how they dress per season. This is what they wear every Sunday. And so every time when you come to church and then you are not seeing that alignment in their dressing. There are sometimes that you are concerned, okay, why is that they are not dressed in uniform today, or except maybe there is something special happening. It is the same thing as branding and brand strategy. Okay. How that every element is in question to pass a goal, to pass a message, just to relate to you that this is what we represent, this is who we are, this is who we are trying to reach. For instance, for the example of the churches that I gave, that I cited, in some churches, there's a reason why they dress the way they dress. And one of the reasons why some of the reasons why they dress that way is to attract the younger generation. There are some people who dress to attract the people. Just like in the evening, the same way there are some particular people who will dress in some way, maybe when it's around 10 p.m., 11 p.m. to attract men. It is just the exact kind of, that alone is branding. That alone is branding. And because when you are branding, you are not just putting a color because you think this color looks nice. You are adding a color because you are passing a message. So every element of a logo, every element of a brand itself is a message. Every color is a message. Every font is a message. And when you are running a brand, I tell people that make sure that your brand values, your brand documents are not something that are just sitting pretty in a document. There are things that should direct you. You should follow the direction of your color. If you are using a blue color, which mostly means professionalism, what you are doing should be professional. Maybe what the icon that's on your logo is maybe a crown, which means elegance. Everything you do should reflect elegance and should not just be the bare minimum. So every element of a logo, every element of a brand is not just to look pretty. Although that too is among, but it is not just to look pretty. It is passing a message and it means something. And it is also sending a message as a representation of that brand that this is what we are, this is what we do, and this is who we are reaching out to.
Okay, now you've spoken a lot about branding itself and what it means. Now we've spoken about what colors and what it means and how to brand yourself. Now let's go to the branding, using it as a business growth now. How can a business owner use branding to grow their business? And can branding, the way you brand your product or services, can it bring in more revenue? Since you are spending a lot of money to design these logos, to ensure that you look attractive to your clients or customers, then in what way can your appearance or the way you look to your clients or the society, in what way can it bring in more impact to your business revenue-wise?
All right. So I'll give this example. So I saw a research online, and I saw that there is this coffee brand that is not a Nigerian brand. They are trying to target a certain they're trying to target a certain territory, and they found out that those people were not really interested in the coffee because it's not sweet. And then they sat down to think, okay, what can we do to ensure that we are still selling, even though the people we are trying to target are not really interested in what we are doing. So they came up with the fact that, okay, since this generation is losing interest in what we are doing, let us face the younger generation. And so they started making, even though the coffee is not very sweet, they started making the smell very, very pleasant to the younger generation. And so the younger generation started feeling attracted to it. And when they grew up, even though they did not, the taste is sweet, they no longer paid attention to the taste. And then that generation was started falling in love with coffee. And I can't mention the name of the brand, but with the description, we may already just know that brand. And that is how they blew. But that thinking now is the branding. That was what gave rise to their revenue. That was what gave rise to their brand. And that is exactly how branding can shift revenue of any business. So, for instance, if your business is struggling, you have to sit down and strategize and understand, okay, what does my business need to do right now? And I gave that example because you might be targeting a particular people and it might never work. So you might have to sit down and say, okay, with what I am doing, with my price, with the way this thing is sitting, with the way this thing is looking, there are some generations that might never be attracted to it unless you have to shift something. So the thing is not just forcing your product on people. It's making them love it. And when you can make them relate and connect to what you do, what you say, what you represent, you have already, as a matter of fact, you've gotten their heart, and people have to go to, their money will go to. So I think one of the major things that anybody who wants their revenue to grow, especially through branding, should do is to find a way to ensure that their product, their person, whatever it is that they are trying to push to the face of people, is connecting with people. Okay. And they are not forcing people, they are not just trying to cajole people, but they are trying to ensure that people are connected to what they represent. And when people are connected to what they represent, it is unarguable that when people connect to it, they will give their money to it. So sit down to ensure that people understand what I'm doing, people can connect to what I'm doing, and once they can do that, you have their money.
So invariably you are saying that customers can stay with you if you brand well. So can branding ensure that you have a loyal customer base for yourself? And if you have a loyal base customer for yourself, can you control the price because you are branded well? Does it work that way?
I think the whole essence of branding is to be able to connect people enough that even when you want to change some things with your brand, you will understand. So they can connect with your brand. For instance, let me use I use this example because it's like they are like the heroes of branding right now. I use the example of Apple with the iPhone. That no matter how much they want to sell iPhone today, because they already have a set of people who will buy it, they already have a set of people who love what the Apple logo does to them. People will buy it. So, for instance, if another brand comes today and decides to sell a phone that has 3 cameras, and let's say the phone is 50,000 naira, it does not mean millionaires will buy it just because they have 3 cameras or 4 cameras. But then Apple can make a phone tomorrow and it's 10 billion naira, and people will be rushing to buy it. It is not because it is not expensive or it is something that will break their brand, break their bank. The reason why they are buying it is because of what it does to them, how it makes them feel, how important it makes them feel. It connects with their emotions, it connects with them, and over time they've been able to love it so much that no matter where you try to skyrocket your price to, we are still with you. And every small business owner can do that with their brand. That they can get people connect to their brand so much that eventually, even if they decide to change their brand, decide to change their location, people will go. I don't know, you must have maybe seen there's a brand that I saw not far in Ibadan, and I saw that they left their location, went to a different location, and the same people who used to buy from them will go to that same location, no matter how far it is, just because they feel that they can't get that same value that they are getting from them elsewhere. So I think the main thing is that, are you really branding of your own business? Because many people think because they have a logo, they have a brand. Your brand is not, and that's why I gave the example starting that marketing is the execution. The branding is the brain, is the thinking, the powerhouse. So did you sit down? Do you know who your target audience are? Do you know who you are selling to? If we ask you to define yourself in 3 words, do you know who you are? Do you know what your brand is in 3 words? Do you know what you represent? How are you positioned? What makes you indispensable? Why should people not throw you away? Once all of these questions can be answered and be dealt with properly, and people can now connect to the identity that your brand has given you, no matter where you put, no matter the price, once they can connect with you, and over time your brand has proven to be consistent, and they've stayed with it, and they've seen that it is valuable, it keeps giving what they want. No matter how much change you want to do to the price, as a matter of fact, the price sometimes makes them feel that they need it more, because they feel it is this expensive, then it is needed.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Now let's go to the other time you mentioned small and medium scale enterprises, and a lot of times when you hear them talk, they tell you they don't need to have some colors to their business because they are small in capacity, and sometimes they will tell you it is those who come and go that they are selling to. They do not really have a stable customers that can buy from them. They can move from one place to another. But you have emphasized the need to brand themselves. Now, branding themselves as small, medium enterprises, how easy can it be for them? And what are the steps that they need to take in branding? Small-scale business owners do not want to follow the trend of I want to use this particular color, I must look this way this day, I must look that way the other day. They want to sell and make profit instantly. So where is the place of branding for small and medium-scale enterprise?
All right. So I think that one of the ways that small businesses can win is just by being specific. It's just by being specific with what they do, with what they represent, and who they are reaching out. So I gave the example of Apple, right? And one of the things that I want to emphasize is that a brand is not as big as the other one does not mean that it is not successful. So there are brands who may not be making the amount of money that other brands are making because of the time, because of how long they've been in the business. It does not mean that in and of themselves they are not successful. And one of the ways that I think that every small brand can invariably do well in the big scheme of things is by being specific in their speaking. What is it that we want to do? What is it that we are targeting to do? If your major goal is being affordable, stick with that and stick with it. And I'll give this example. I was watching a podcast, I think late last month, where somebody that I look up to was having an interview with one of the big people in Chicken Republic. And it was given an example about how their brand focused on being affordable when they came up with this report package. How that, normally chicken republic, because it's a rich eatery, the African mindset will say, let me not go to an eatery, it's expensive, let me just settle for a booker. And when they said that, okay, how can we rebrand and ensure that our food is affordable for everybody, and they decided to come up with a report package. And I think they started with 500 naira. And when the example he gave struck me, he said, because that 500 naira looks small, so you can just say, I have 500 naira. If with 500 naira I can buy a pack of food in Chicken Republic, then why not? And I think with that affordability, today, the IS is not, that report pack is no longer 500 naira, of course, because of the economic issue and everything. But even though it's no longer 500 naira, people are still buying it because of how long they stayed with that affordability, with that package, how long they stayed around that one thing. People kept on buying. So it is the same thing with a small brand. You think you are small today, just stay with one thing. Stay consistent with one thing. Keep doing that thing that you have chosen as the representation of your own identity. And eventually, when people become loyal to you, you can now begin to explore or maybe go into other things. But one of the ways that every small business can win is by being specific, to avoid confusion. Because if you do not avoid, pay enough for strategy to avoid confusion now, eventually you are going to have to pay much more. So when you get more confused, you are going to have to pay much more. So I think it is very important, especially even when the brand is small. Find what it is that your brand wants to represent, what you want to be known for as a brand, and stick with it. And eventually, as your brand continues to connect with other people, it will keep growing.
Okay, now let's talk about the investment that comes along with branding. A lot of times people tend to run away from branding because they know that it requires a lot of money, a lot of investment. Sometimes it takes your time. You want to think about what to do per time and how to outgrow the level that you are. So investing in branding, at what stage should a stage of life of a business can they start thinking of investing in branding? Talking about what money it will involve, the funding, the time, the attention, and everything that encompasses you branding yourself. So tell us, how can a small and medium-scale enterprise invest, and at what stage?
All right. So I think many people believe that their brands have to maybe scaled up to a certain amount of success before they begin to think branding. And I don't think that is very true, because branding is first who you are, what you are for, and the problem that you are solving. And one thing that I say is that if you wait until confusion comes before you fix it, when that confusion comes, you will pay more to get to fix it. So I think even a startup requires branding. So it is not, branding is not something that you need all of the money in the world before you start. You must start even before you get into business, so that you will be able to stay consistent to what you are, what you do, and what you represent. Because majorly, the goal of branding is to help you find who your business is for, what problem you solve, and why it exists. And if you do not even get that sorted before you venture into business, the business is eventually going to get into confusion. Every business, no matter how small, even a startup, needs branding. And as a matter of fact, this thing is not, I don't think it actually costs a lot to brand. I think it is just the thinking. Branding requires just thinking. That's why I started with that. Branding is the power of, is the thinking behind marketing. Marketing is what costs more. Branding yourself does not cost more. Because what branding really is finding what you have, what you do, what you represent, and who needs your services. Once that is sorted, you are already that, and that's why I said even everybody is a brand. You have a personal brand. You are a personal brand as a person. You are a personal brand as a person. Yes. So branding does not cost more. It is marketing that costs more.
Okay, let's talk about the key components of a growth-driven brand. If you see a brand, how do you know, how do you measure that this brand is growing after they have used the brand strategies that you have provided for them? What are the things that you see in the business life of that business? What will the outside people or the customers or clients see if you want to measure if a business is growing or not growing, if they're using the brand right or wrongly?
Alright, so I think that one of the ways that you are going to know that a brand is growing is that they have a clear target audience and their message is consistent over time. So you are not seeing a brand that is saying this is what I'm doing today, and then tomorrow they are saying this is another thing. They are going to stay consistent. And one of the things that you will notice concerning many brands that are successful is they are consistent, even up to their colors. They are consistent with it. That even while they are rolling down a single design, it is the color that they represented, and that color would represent majorly what they do and what they represent. So they are going to be consistent with their identity. They are going to be consistent and have a clear target audience. They are going to have a strong value proposition in the sense that what they are offering eventually will be consistent. What they are offering you will be consistent, and what you are offering them, it won't feel like they are teaching you. So you even at the time that maybe they may be increasing their price. Maybe their price, at the time they are increasing their price, you will still feel that their value, their product is needed, because you believe that you are getting the value for what you are getting. So you are both always getting value. You are not losing, and you also believe that they are not losing. So I think those are very important things. How consistent they are to their message, how consistent they are to their identity, how consistent they are with the people that they are targeting, and how consistent they are with their value over time.
Okay, is there anything like over-branding? Because a lot of times people will say, I'm not getting the value from what I want to get from this product or services because they lured me with their brand benefits. And when they got there, they did not get the expected value from that brand. So do we have brand products or services that over-brand themselves? And what is the disadvantage of over-branding or under-branding?
Okay, so now that you've explained over-branding, I think it is possible that an organization, or it's just like I said, everybody is a partner, but just like you are hearing, you heard about this person, like, okay, this person can do this and do that, and then you meet the person and you're disappointed. It's just the same thing as over-branding. So I think it is possible there's something as over-branding, and the same way you can hear of someone and say, it's just a nice brand. When you meet the person, he's so down to it and say, wow, what I heard about you was not enough. So there's also something called under-branding, and I think both are disadvantage. And why I said, for instance, if you do not brand yourself well enough, for instance, maybe you do not present yourself as to the level at which your value should be communicated, people will not value you, especially the people who are supposed to reach out to you will not value you enough. So for instance, imagine if Apple was selling iPhone for, right now, let's say Apple was selling iPhone for 50,000 naira. There are people who will not buy it just because it's too cheap. Because one of the reasons why people are getting iPhone right now is not just because they can afford it. is because even while they are holding it, even if they don't know what that phone does, the fact that when they are on their phone and people see the logo, people can say, this phone is expensive, is just like enough to end an argument that I have a good phone. So it is the same thing with people who may be underbranding themselves. So I think there is such thing as overbranding and underbranding, and I don't think it is advisable. Stick with what you represent, and that should be what you should be loud about. So that's just on that side.
Okay, in this time of digital transformation, a lot of things, especially the business sectors, they've undergone some changes when it comes to the digital technology and the AI knowledge of the aspect of their business. How has technology or digital transformation affected brand strategy? A lot of people who want to come to professionals like you, they want to rely on the use of AI or their phones to help them do some branding, and at the end of it, some people will say it's not paying off. They really want to go back to the professional to help them. So as transformation from the technology or AI helped the growth of branding, the branding strategy that we have these days in this era?
All right. So I think that AI and the advent of technology has helped businesses a lot. And why I think this is, for instance, before, I think one of the ways that businesses grow is just getting to, maybe if people hear about you, then you are already loud. But these days, even though people hear about you, even though you try to maybe market your business, it does not guarantee that your business will be successful. You're playing to do that. But people hear about your business does not mean that your business will be successful now in the age of social media, because social media has given the opportunity for not only your brand to be online. So when you come online and say this is what you are doing, this is what you are saying, this is what you represent, there are 999 people who are doing the same thing, and that puts you in the place of competition. And so if you do not connect, if you do not stay true to what you represent, if you do not connect to people who need you, if you do not connect to your target audience, your brand might never actually reach where it's supposed to get to. So right now, brands are built in real time. Consistency, responsiveness are more important than even perfection. So growth should come from connection, not just exposure. So I think that is one thing that makes this digital and modern age and the advent of AI and other technology very, very important and more advantageous to every business than the traditional methods, because these days the digital has removed every hiding places. The successful businesses have nowhere to hide, and the small businesses also have been taken from hidden places. Now everybody has the same vantage point. The only thing left now is for you to now use that vantage point to either promote yourself or just stay where you are. And that comes from your understanding of branding and your willingness to do what is needed of it.
Okay. Can a business using the brand strategy, can they measure the return on investment? Is it possible?
Sorry, I didn't see that.
I said, can businesses measure the return on investment using brand strategy? Is it possible to measure it? And if you want to measure, at what point of usage of this brand strategy or strategies that you have used can you start measuring?
Alright, so it is possible to measure your growth in business. So I think one of the ways that people can measure their growth, for instance, online, if maybe you are using your brand in a business that is majorly online, one of the ways that you can measure your growth is maybe increased demand, in higher competition rates, in stronger efforts, in pricing flexibility, your brand awareness, and the engagement quality, and the customer retention. So I think those are one of the ways that you can measure your growth, most especially brand awareness. If you are playing an online game, people should hear about you because almost everybody is online. And if you are online and everybody hears about you, but nobody wants to connect with you, that means there's still a problem. So the engagement quality is also a measurement of how people are connecting with you. And people might be trying to maybe engage with your posts, with your brand, and what they are engaging are not positive. Or maybe they are even engaging positively. And once they maybe patronize you or use your services, they don't come back again. There's still a problem. So another way to measure is customer retention. How does the people who come to you don't just come once and then leave. That customer retention is also one of the ways that you can measure. And as a matter of fact, I think that's one of the most important things because if one of the major things in branding is the fact that you have to stay consistent to who you are, to what you do, and to people you are reaching out to, then the people who are coming to you should not be disappointed. Because if you have sent a message that this is who I am, and when you come, they meet the person that you said they will meet, then they will come again, and they will come again, and they will maybe bring another person. So another metric to measure is also repeat purchases. Aside customer retention, they will come again and they will come again and they will come again, repeat purchases. And the most important thing is the lifetime value. And that's the one that I mentioned earlier with the case of Apple. How that even if they decide to sell a phone for 10 billion naira today, there are people who will buy it. And they don't feel that they are being cheated for their money because they feel that they are giving that value to receive value in return. Because whatever it is that they are giving is still valuable enough to get whatever it is that they are receiving from them. So I think those amongst many others are some metrics that can be used to measure growth online.
Okay, in assessing all of these measurements, do business owners make some mistakes? What mistakes have you seen them make when they are trying to assess?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, I said, what mistakes do you think business owners are really making when they are trying to assess their growth using the brand strategy? What are the mistakes that you as a professional see business owners do when they are trying to see if they are growing or not? What are these mistakes and what can they do to avoid these mistakes? Especially those business owners coming behind.
Right. So I think one of the mistakes that many people are making, especially when it comes to branding, is the fact that they feel that they have to have it or they have to maybe attain a certain height before they get to sit down and get a proper brand, get properly branded. Because I think these days you can just come online and you see we are rebranding. And I think that in a way just slightly gives almost every small business the idea, okay, I can just start anyhow and then eventually when I want to rebrand, I would do it well. But I would say this, and I just hope people who hear this will understand. It might take you 10 years to eventually get to rebrand properly if you start wrong. But if you start well, you might never even need to rebrand. You just have to continue your brand. And why I said it might take 10 years for you to rebrand properly is if you start confused, you might never even see that there's a need to rebrand. Because if you start confused, you might lose the people who are supposed to be attracted to you. You might even lose yourself. You might lose your uniqueness. So eventually, maybe people you started at around the same time are already trying to see some level of success, and you are maybe trying to tend towards what they are doing because you do not have a definition of what you were supposed to be doing in the beginning. You start losing a lot of time, So I think that's one of the mistakes that small businesses make. starting out their business. In the fact that they think, okay, let me just start. Eventually, I will. Let me just start. When there's time, I will find a way to present my business. And like I said again, branding does not cost more. It is the marketing and advertising that maybe cost. And I've explained that branding is the brain, but power is the thinking. Marketing is the execution, and advertising is the amplification. So if you want to market and maybe advertise, that may cost money. But branding, getting to know yourself, is something you can sit down and understand. Okay, how can I get it? Of course, I know maybe the way I say it might seem easy, and you actually may need a professional to help you outline, okay, sit down and say, okay, this is what I think, this is why I'm starting this business, this is what I want to communicate to people. When people just see what I do, this is what should come to their mind. So all of that comes to play, and that is why you may need a professional. But in the grand scheme of things, I think that it's something that you can actually sit down and, okay, this is what I do, this is what I represent, and then get to do it yourself. And I think this is my advice. If you maybe are starting a business, or if you are a small business owner, it is not too late to get your branding. And if you are just you maybe just want to start a business, ensure that you are properly branding before you start.
So at what point of a business life is rebranding? Is it necessary at all? When it is necessary, at what point should a business think about rebranding?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Okay, I was asking you about the rebranding process. I said, at what point do you think a business owner should start thinking of rebranding, or do they really need to rebrand at all? If the business is doing well, should they rebrand? If the business is doing well, do they need rebranding?
No, if your business is doing well, you just may need to market and amplify your reach.
Okay.
But if your business is doing good, you have been well branded, there is no point to it. That's why I said it is important to get well branded before you launch out.
Okay. Lastly, before we allow you go, we need your word of advice as a professional. You're a brand strategist, and you have been in the business for a long time now. You must have seen what branding does to business, services, or the product that people are putting forward in the economy. What do you think business owners, upcoming people, or those who are in the sector already, what do you think branding can do to them, and what is the word of advice on branding?
All right. So I think one of the things that I would advise every small business or everybody who is just starting a brand should pay attention to get properly branded before you launch out. It's very, very important. It might seem like a small advice, but it is very, very important. But another very important thing is no matter when you maybe you want to start a business, there's a reason you are starting, and your brand identity revolves around the reason why you are starting. Your brand identity, the reason why you are starting is what will determine who your target audience are. It is what will determine even what your product will be. So I think that to ensure that you stay consistent to that thing, stay consistent to your reason. And that is, as a matter of fact, that is how you stay consistent to your brand. That is the reason why you may necessarily not have to rebrand. So stay consistent to your brand, stay consistent to what you do, and eventually, I believe that from there, if you've been properly branded and you stay consistent to what you do, stay consistent to the reason why you started, then I believe that your brand will continue to do well.
Daily, a brand strategist, for talking to us about branding and all the importance, the tools that must be used in branding our businesses, services, or the venture that we are into. We thank you for your time on OGTV, particularly the Profit Point Show. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And now we want to thank our viewers too for staying through with us on the Profit Point Show. Next week Thursday promises to be a fuller one as we'll be having the two segments intact. Today we dedicated this program on branding because we know that a lot of businesses are starting afresh for the new year and they will need things that will take them to the customer's heart, and branding is one of those tools that can be used to ensure that they stay loyal, the customers stay loyal, and they stay afloat of their businesses. Before we go, don't forget that OGTV is also a product to be sold, and we want to sell all our segments and all our programs on OGTV. If you want to place your advert or sponsor any of the programs, you can call this number 0803-396-0423. That is the number to call if you're placing an advert or sponsoring any of our programs. Thank you for watching the Profit Point Show. Next week promises to be another interesting one. My name is Mr. Bye-bye.